Welcome to Deep Insights, the podcast that pulls back the curtain on why business teams are still buried in manual work and stuck with outdated software stacks. Where we'll look at the broken systems, the spreadsheet chaos, and the lack of real-time insights that slow companies down, and how AI and modern technology are finally flipping the script. My name is Daniel Zahavi, and today's guest is Hezi Sasson. Hezi is part of the partnerships and investment team at Chartered Communications with a past history in investment banking. In his roles, Hezi evaluates countless startups and emerging businesses, a process that demands pulling together fragmented data from thousands of sources. And like so many finance and investment teams, he faces the daily challenge we talk about here: endless manual work, data consolidation headaches, and the search for better, smarter tools to make sense of it all. Hezi, it's really great to have you here on Deep Insights. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So before we start, we're going to play a guessing game. You have to guess a number. So there has been a recent study that has looked into how different businesses manage their finance stack from a technology perspective, what tools do they use, etc. And they have found that a certain percentage of these enterprises, they rely only on spreadsheets for their entire financial planning. What number of enterprises do you think rely only on spreadsheets and nothing else?
Upwards of 80%.
Awesome. You're very close. We're going to reveal the answer at the end of the episode,
Okay.
but you're not far off.
Yeah.
So you started your career at investment banking, and then you had a long period at Corp Dev at Chartered Communications, and now your focus has shifted toward more investments. For those of our listeners who don't know what Corp Dev does, because honestly, I didn't know what Corp Dev does until a couple of years ago, can you give us a brief description of the roles and responsibilities?
Sure. So the corporate development team is responsible for driving the companies to the next phase of growth. And when we say growth, it's usually inorganic growth. So complementing the core business with other things.
Mm-hmm.
And they're usually being done either through acquisitions, investments, partnerships, etc. And so the corporate responsibility is to keep good tab of what's going on in the market, right? So talk to the startups, the investors, talk to your business teams, develop investment thesis, understand what's happening, what can we gain, what are the pain points. And once you've kind of identified what's your interest, what can drive growth, you start building companies and you start to evaluate them. And then the corporate team is responsible to drive the entire diligence process. So really go end to end, understand the business, engage, as I said, all the business teams, engage all the corporate teams, the legal team, the HR team, the FP&A, investor relation, engage outside counsel, the bankers.
Lots of interfaces.
Lots of, consultants, and then take all this data, a lot of data, a lot of different stakeholders, and distill it to one really nice and polished PowerPoint that is usually backed by a few Excel files that really is driving the entire analysis and all the assumptions and all the synergies and all the evaluation you put in place and present it to the investment committee. And
So
then
they can actually make a kind of a call whether
Exactly.
we want to do this investment or not.
As you can imagine, there's a lot of different data, right? So it's all
Yeah.
about kind of try to find the best way to present the data.
Yeah.
And try to make the best assumptions and also present it in a way that other people can kind of follow the work that you've done, and also bring the executive team the opportunity to evaluate the opportunity and say, hey, do we want to pursue, we don't want to pursue.
Amazing. So can you tell us some of the interesting deals that you have done in the past few years?
Yeah.
Something that you can share, obviously.
The question that everyone wants to know. So, there's only so much I can share given it's a public
course.
company, but some of the public things that we've done, a couple years ago, we've done a joint ventures with Comcast and established a streaming platform. It was almost $1 billion
Wow.
transaction called Zumo. So it's effectively you can go now and buy TVs with our operating platform, which is pretty exciting. And the juicy thing, in at least from my perspective, JVs is super, super interesting because JVs is joint ventures, for those who don't know. And it's sort of like a marriage, especially if 50-50, because you have to say, okay, if everything is working perfect, great.
Of course.
But what happens when someone is unhappy?
Yeah.
What do you do? Who gets the revenue? Who gets the IP? How do we decide who gets what?
So I think all of those interfaces that you mentioned before, you mentioned like there are lots of interfaces, lots of people involved in a joint venture. It's kind of everything basically doubled, right?
It's double. It's like everyone has their own interest, right? If it's two companies, well, company A, company B, they want to protect certain rights. They want to protect other certain rights, and the company required also probably have their own way of like, hey, we want the deal to be structured with cash and equity, or we want the founders to stay in the business. So it all needs to kind of come into one really long document that as they say, God is in the detail. It really in the detail.
So you before you mentioned like the Zuma investment, you mentioned it was like $1 billion investment, which is obviously a lot of money. But am I correct by assuming that like these $1 billion questions and investments are basically done on a financial model that someone has made? You mentioned a couple of Excel files that I believe that are pretty complicated because lots of data coming in. What are some of the challenges? What are some of the can you tell us like how the process looks like and what are the challenges for kind of creating those models and getting all the data and make sure everything is correct, etc.?
Yeah, so usually, there's kind of a framework, and I've been doing this for almost 10 years. So you kind of develop a framework through which you go through these processes. And usually, first of all, there's an ask, right? Someone is coming asking you, hey, Hezi, we need to do A, B, C, D, or we want to invest in this company. And then you need to say, okay, do I have the right data in order to answer the question? Or do I need to tell my boss, give me a few days to understand what's the next steps are? And usually the next steps are, okay, how do we build a valuation? And then who do I need to reach out to internally that owns that specific business or owns that specific data set and engage them and say, hey, I'm working on this deal right now. I need you to help me with getting assumptions for XYZ.
Hoping that person is not on vacation or maternity leave.
Yeah, hoping that you, first of all, you know who the person is and you don't just need to reach out cold to someone to say, hey, who knows who have this data? Again, usually you do this for a long time, so you have goodwill. Part of being a good corp dev is having really good relationships, both with the decision makers and both with the folks who are actually doing the work. There's a difference usually between those who kind of running the numbers and then the one who presented at the investment committee. And so you need to know who to reach out to, and you need to know what type of data you're asking, and you need to know, once you get the data, you need to know to ask questions about the data and have, making sure that like, okay, this is the right set of data for me to use in the broader set of the evaluation and diligence process I'm currently after.
So lots of kind of favors to ask people to make sure you know the right person and the right person likes you and gives you the right data and he's there when you need him.
Yeah, lots of these processes. Hello.
Oh, here's Roxy. My dog just got in. Roxy, outside please. Thank you.
It's part of the script.
Sure.
So yeah, but you have to have really good relationships, and you need to know what data is that you after that will fill in the gaps in your analysis that will help drive your analysis forward. And also, it's not only also about data; it's about talking to the right person and help kind of understand, hey, how should I be thinking about it? Like, what assumptions I should put in place?
It seems to me, I'm gonna say something may sound provocative, but it seems to me like part of the politics in corporates actually are like the fact that you're looking for the data and data's kind of spread everywhere and everyone kind of holds a piece of it is actually fueling that politics, because you need to know the right person, you need to ask the right person, and the right person needs to be available to you, etc., etc. Is that correct? Yeah,
that's very correct. And sometimes also people don't want to give you part of their data, especially if it's analysis and it's a number that they've calculated, because then you're going to present it and someone will ask a question and say, hey, that's not my number. I took it from Nick, or I took it from someone. And then they don't want to be on the hook for if something happens. But yeah, it's also in the manner of like, I own the data. What do you need the data for? Like, dude, should I give you the data? What are you going to do with it? Because it could be very sensitive.
Yeah.
Right? There's kind of questions about security. But also, I don't know. I don't know what you're going to do with my data. So it's a lot of, again, you need to know the right people. Usually after you've been doing this for a long time, you know already the right people. But sometimes even if you know the right people, it's a matter of, hey, I know you usually give me this data, but I need something different because I need now to account for other stuff that in the prior transaction I did not account for.
So actually process the data a little
Exactly.
bit further before
Exactly.
it's
So
kind of
there's a little bit
usable
more work that has to be done, and because you cannot do it because you don't own the kind of like the first party data, if you will, then you need to reach out to other folks.
So like getting the data is obviously has been a challenge, as you mentioned. Making sure the data, as you mentioned, is correct and up to date is obviously not really easy. You want to make sure that you have the right data when you're answering $1 billion question, like we just talked about. And I think what I want to ask is, you mentioned these things are being done on spreadsheets and Excel files and Google Sheets, etc. Why do you think that we are not seeing more modern technology in like driving these kind of calculations and formulating? Why is that like most of the corporates, as we just started talking about, still rely on manual kind of spreadsheets for even answering $1 billion question, right?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've kept asking this for a long time during my tenure. But there's a few ways to look at it. One of which is it's very easy, right? Like it's very easy, and I don't know what's the equivalent on the software engineering side of things, but it's very easy. Sometimes you just have something quick. You're not going to open a calculator. You're going to open your Excel file and kind of run the math really quickly.
I do that all the time.
It's like once you know how to do it, it's nice and it's easy and it's there. And it's the other thing, it's there because everyone is using it. Right?
Of course.
So, like you're gonna make an investment, your bankers will have Excel, the consultant will have Excel, even some of the legal team not gonna have any complicated, but part of the diligence, you have long list of questions in Excel. Everyone will use Excel, right? And so, and when I joined investment banking, my first job out of college, and we had this kind of orientation and onboarding, the first week was dedicated towards how to use Excel. And so it's the culture, right? It's like everyone is using it. You are expected to come in and master and be able to use Excel. And so it's already there, but it's also habits, right? Like sometimes you will know that Excel is imperfect. And the way of using Excel currently, right? I was talking about earlier about having multiple stakeholders. So you take data from this guy, you take data from the business, you take from HR. And sometimes the data is clean and it's organized and it's great. Other times it's messy and you have to make sense out of it, and then no one knows where the data is coming from. And so it's kind of more like everyone knows it's not perfect, and you need to compensate by having to look at it 100 times and making sure the data is correct and making sure your analysis is correct. And so you have to compensate, and then you go into the issues of it's not perfect, but it's the devil I know. And so I'm going to continue using that because you've already kind of developed ways to address the fact that it's not great.
So I think that kind of even raises the bar for the type of people involved, because you, as you mentioned, you need to have this intuition of understanding, hey, what do I want to look at? The numbers look off to me. I want to make sure that, hey, something's wrong here. And you gain that intuition only after a lot of experience, which kind of raises the bar of what are the people that can actually pull this off. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me that kind of creates bottlenecks, right? Because there's only that person that understands that spreadsheet. No one else understands it. And if that person is in Hawaii, just figure of speech, now everything's stuck until it comes back because no one wants to touch that spreadsheet because no one understands it, right?
Yeah. That's the way it is. It's not perfect, but that's the way it is.
But it works for now.
Yeah, it works for now.
And honestly, I think another thing that I have, like in my opinion, you mentioned, hey, this is part of the culture. I think that also like a spreadsheets are extremely flexible, and you can use them and to your needs, and then they are great and being like flexible, like every company can use them, doesn't matter size or industry. And I think that's something that has also been really important. Let's talk about AI. Obviously, AI is all the rage right now. Everyone's using AI. What do you think are the areas that AI needs to improve before it can be involved in some of the decision-making processes that you kind of were explaining before?
Yeah, so trust and accuracy. For me, this will be the two things that are very important to hit. I was playing a little bit with ChatGPT maybe a few months ago and just kind of dropping Excel files and say, hey, good luck, analyze and give me, spit out the answer. And it was terrible. And then I used it a few weeks ago with, I think it was the O3 model.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was pretty impressive.
It's pretty powerful.
Yeah. I mean, not perfect, but kind of like a junior guy that you give him an ask and say, hey, look at this, tell me what you know, summarize. And he did a fairly good job. Not earning my trust yet, and not very accurate, but very impressive that a machine can do it within the span of 10 seconds. A person having to explain the problem or the task at hand to the junior guy and ask, hey, I need to do A, B, C, D, can you help? And then it's like a day worth of process. So now it's 10 seconds.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but it had the ability to analyze Excel and come up with like a summary. There's a lot of things you need to work on, like formatting and be able to actually pull the right data. So far from being perfect, but pretty impressive.
I think when you mentioned before, you said, hey, our job is getting the data from different data sources in one place, making sure the data is up to date, making sure we know where the data comes from and whether we can explain the data. And only after that, it starts kind of the fun part, which is, hey, let's now build a financial model and answer a business question. Which part of that pipeline that I just kind of described do you think that AI can make the hugest difference?
I think all of them, right? So ability to being connected, and I think it's already is. You probably have to make more integrations, but being able to connect the different data sources and be able to query the data, and then being able to keep querying the data, but like as you
in real time.
Yeah. Keep asking, wait, what about this? What about that? Let's assume this, right? To be able to kind of have a Q&A, live Q&A, if you will, with the platform. I think this will be amazing. And I think it's already happening now. Not there yet, but being able to do kind of to iterate through the process, have the platform already been connected to data, analyze the data, and be able to have more Q&As. I think this will be really game changer in the way professionals, not only corp dev, just finance people, whoever is using Excel and using some sort of data, which is a big portion of
all business teams almost.
Exactly. Will be able to enjoy that benefit.
I think you mentioned what you wanted for our AI to be is trust, I think, and accuracy, right? Now, do you think that when it comes to trust, for example, you want to make sure that you know where the numbers are coming from? How do you handle that now? Like, I'm guessing that it's not that even now without AI, like the way that things are now, it's not a really easy task to understand whether the numbers are correct or not. How do you go through that toward that process?
Yeah. So the first answer is intuition, right? Again, you kind of build very good intuition and sanity check and understanding where the numbers coming from and if they're off, why they're off. But in terms of trust, you would, if you have done the work, you would go through an analysis. If you have not done the work on someone else, you would have a question with them.
Yeah.
But you hop on the phone and then would you sit in a conference room and say, okay, walk me through your work. How did you get to this number? Or why have you used this assumption? And so when I'm talking about trust with kind of ChatGPT-like type of platforms, it's going to be a way of show me how you got to the response. Give me the opportunity, not just right. I want to know what the market share is, and you say like 5%. Fine. Show me where you got this. Is it a source? Did you make a calculation? Give me the option to audit the data in a way that I feel comfortable. Then I know what's on the page now, has gone through my analysis, but has given a really boost, right? Because I have the option to kind of back and forth and has questions. And so if now it will take much longer, because I have to use my intuition, I have to go and speak to people who have run the data, who I don't know if they're in Hawaii or elsewhere.
Yeah.
If you can do that quicker, that's golden.
So you have seen, obviously, bunch of financial models and bunch of spreadsheets and bunch of Excel files.
Just a few.
What are some of the craziest one that you remember that you've seen and you kind of looked at them and said, oh God, I can't believe this is real?
Where do I begin? There's probably two buckets of Excel files that give me nightmares. The first one are ones that are really hard to follow because it's a hard topic. And
Yeah.
for me, it was tax.
Of course.
Tax
of course.
was-
I knew would say tax.
Tax was always complicated because it's really hard. You need to know what you're doing. There's a
Yeah.
lot of assumptions. You need to know why it's being used. How do you depreciate intangible? Like it's hard. And so you'd have to talk to the team many times to be like, please help me. Please help me understand why. How did you build this? How do I make sense out of it? How do I use it in my analysis?
What's happening here?
What's happening? It's kind of Chinese. Towards the end, right? I knew kind of what I was doing, but it's hard. And
Yeah,
you have
yeah.
people who this is their day job to do that. The other set of Excel files are Excel files that are completely mess because they it's a lot of data from different sources and you don't know what the source is. It's a lot of cells that have what we call just manually input data. So there are no formulas.
Those are the worst.
And so you just don't know how to use it. You don't know, and then you have to put your name and say, okay, like I've done this analysis, but and then someone asks, hey, what is this data coming from? Or how did you reach this number? And you say, well, I used this number. And then say, okay, who gave it to you? Or where is it from? And you say, I don't know. It was just in Excel. And so it looks bad, and it's hard to track and know where the data is coming from. And it's scary because at the end of the day, you're responsible to put forth a really solid and defensible Excel and pitch deck that people can then make decisions for billions and billions of dollars.
And the craziest thing is that one number can change everything. Like you mentioned, like manually put numbers. Like that number, if that number changes, everything changes.
Yeah.
And like this is like a house of cards that collapses instantly. And at that moment, no one really trusts what you're saying in the room anymore.
No, yeah. And then so the reason you now see when I say trust and accuracy,
Yes,
that's the same
yes.
skills that are being asked from a really skilled corp dev person. Right? It's because once you show something to your boss and it's wrong, even just one number is wrong, people will look at the analysis and say, why don't you take a look, and then come back to me
again, yeah.
after you feel good about the stuff that you are showing. And so that has to be transferable to the AI for AI to be really meaningful part of the work and not just, oh, let me just ask a question, but I'm still gonna go back to the old way of doing things.
Yeah, so I think I want to kind of conclude our conversation. We talked about a lot about gathering the data, which is obviously a pain. We just talked about human errors that can happen, and obviously they do happen all of the time. We cannot really avoid them, that are scary. We talked about the speed of things, that, hey, I'm going to go back and come back in a couple of days, rather than knowing now what the answer is, just getting the conversation going. In all of this, if AI could do one thing perfectly, one thing, just one, you get to have one wish, not more than that. Okay?
Oh man, just one.
Yeah, just one thing along everything that I said that for you would make the biggest impact. Like, hey, if that we would be in a completely different scenario right now, and I'm fine with the rest of it, which is still manual and kind of what would that be for you?
Yeah, I would say trust, right? Because the ability to do analysis and let me audit the data. Because once I know we can work on accuracy. It's the same thing with a junior guy.
Correct.
But you've done it wrong, but fine. As long as you understand what you have done and I know and I can follow and you walk me through what you've done, we can work on improving the analysis, or I can give you more input, and that's completely fine. But having this kind of sense of I'm talking to someone and I'm talking to someone, I'm talking to the machine, but I get a response and I can audit that and I can have a Q&A. From there, you can always improve accuracy, and you can always, and then you can also, right, you complement your trust. You complement your intuition, right? It's like, okay, there's something off, and then you ask more questions, and you know that you're talking to something that can provide those answers. And so for me, that's something that will be helpful.
So I think what you're saying, I want to kind of use more of a kind of technical jargon here. You're talking about the explainability of these models. That you want to make sure that they can explain how they have come into a conclusion, or how a certain conclusion or modeling has been done, like as long as they can really explain that, and they can, I think I'm repeating what you said with the numbers, as long as they can say, hey, where the numbers are coming from, and hey, this is where the number comes from. Like if those two are done, then for you to be, hey, this is a game changer. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. You will see a lot of people using it because, again, it gives you a sense of trust. And at the corporate level, where you have to deliver something defensible that a lot of eyes gonna have a look at it, you want to know the users is something that you can trust, right? It's a different ball game for
Yeah.
like startups or like SMBs that can take more risk necessarily, right? When they're going through this at the established enterprise, you want to be able to have some level of, okay, I know what I'm using is like at the 90%, even more percentile of being not correct, but giving me the
Assurance that the numbers are correct.
exactly.
So let's play a second guessing game.
Oh,
This
boy.
one we cannot. This one I cannot actually check whether you're right or wrong. But you just talked about enterprise. When do you think we're going to see these applications of AI actually being deployed in an enterprise? Even just for, one or two tasks of, hey, just get me the data, explain to me where the data comes from, so I can make sure that the rest of the calculation is correct.
I would say within the next 2, 3, 4 years. I don't think it's immediate. At least from what I've seen, it's not there yet. I think early, as I mentioned, kind of early startups or early adopters, what folks and companies that can take the risk of using it. They have to use all the latest and greatest.
Most of the SMB, I would say, kind of companies.
Yeah. Like like even like your Series A, B, C pre-IPO companies that all about technologies will have to use it. But for big enterprises, they'll have to up a certain level of threshold through which, okay, this is good enough for us to be part of our usual stack. I trust it. Other folks that kind of use it internally, we can collaborate on it. And so I think for big enterprise, it'll probably be, call it 2+ years. Like we're not there yet. Hopefully it'll get there, but I don't think we're there yet.
Awesome. Last question. What is the one thing that people don't know about how big corporations operate?
A lot of Excels. No, we're talking about it.
I think everyone knows that. That's not a secret.
Well, a lot of we're slow. I think people know that too. And there's a lot of politics as well. Right? There's kind of a lot of politics around who's making the decision, who is the person who will kind of sponsor and take ownership of the of a specific decision. Sometimes people will like to defer and say, hey, this is a great idea, let's ask my boss, and then let's ask my boss, until they get to
Lots of layers.
lots of different layers. At the corporate level, it's actually fun because you get to sit very high at the corporate ladder. Like we would have monthly M&A discussions with our CFO and the rest of the head of the businesses. So you get to see how decisions are being made, and you get to see kind of a little bit behind the scene about, because you stayed 5 minutes after the meeting and you come 5 minutes before the meeting. So you get to see those kind of, hallway conversations of
The interaction inside the room.
Board meeting before board meeting, because in the board meeting, nothing really important happens. Everything that's happening in the board
I agree.
already happened before. And so those hallway conversations at the C-suite level are where decisions are being made.
That's one of the I think best advices that I've been given. For the very first board meeting that I ever held was, I think it was that, hey, no surprises at the board meeting. There shall not be a topic at the board meeting that has not been discussed with everybody involved beforehand.
Yeah, or a decision. Every investment committee that we got to, we had, I would say, 90% assurance that it's going to pass, because we already talked to everyone. We've socialized the idea with everyone that's going to be in the meeting, so no surprises. Everyone knew what the pitch will be about, and folks had the opportunity to ask any questions. Otherwise, we would not have scheduled the investment committee unless we kind of really had to, and it was kind of very timely process that we had to get a decision quickly and then kind of fine. But more often than not, you come in, there are no surprises. Everyone knows what the topic is. Everyone's like, fine, we've heard, we've asked questions, we're good.
So I think we started the conversation by you making the corp dev role sound really frustrating, because you have to go chase everybody. You know what, this movie with Leonardo DiCaprio and I think Tom Hanks, it's called Get Me If You Can. Yeah, so that was kind of the picture in my mind when you started talking about it. Hey, I have to just go like hunt these people and make sure they are there and just ask for a favor and give the numbers and then pray the numbers are correct, etc. That was like, that might be a nightmare. But like at the end of our conversation right now, you're actually kind of trying to change the picture that, hey, this actually can be quite sexy, like knowing what the decisions are being made, understanding, being at the right place at the right time. So it's kind of, I think you kind of showed us the both sides of the role.
Yeah, sexy is usually how people like to depict corp dev. Whoever say that has never done corp dev in their lives. It's a very hard job, again, because you have a lot of, at the end of the day, it's going to be you and a few other people in the investment committee room, and it's a lot on your shoulders. And you have to represent so many other people that you use the numbers analysis in your own analysis. And so it's amazing because you get to see how the decisions are being made and you get to really influence. But it's hard because you have to rely on so many other people, so many stakeholders, and having to do a lot of balances and kind of and engage. You have to speak many languages. You have to speak the legal language. You have to be able to speak to the product team, to the business team, to the HR team, to the tax team, even if you don't like the analysis or you don't understand it. And so you have to speak to to like the very junior guy out in the field, but you also have to be able to speak to the EVP. And they're talking very different language. And so it's hard. It's a lot of fun. Sexy is one way to put it. I would say it's super challenging and rewarding, but it's not easy. It's not easy, but it's fun.
And I think if kind of conclude what you thought that AI would be best at for a corp dev role would, hey, just get me the right numbers, explain them, so I can make sure that the numbers are correct, and I've got it from them. That would be the one line kind of conclusion of what AI can do for the corp dev team.
If I had that in my former life as corp dev, I would save so many hours, and probably my work has been much better. Absolutely.
Amazing. So I don't know if you know or not, but we have a tradition here at Deep Insights that at the end of every episode, we raise a glass and you get to make the toast.
Oh.
What do you want? What are we drinking for?
Well, we're drinking for, first of all, crazy times and unfortunate times. So drinking for health and return of all the hostages and only good things. And I think that's all important right now. And so toasting for that so we can continue toasting for and talking about other topics.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here today, Hezi.
Thank you. Cheers.
Good whiskey.
Good whiskey. Not Yamazaki, but good.
Not Yamazaki, yeah.